back to watching Business Incorporated right here on Channels Television. We head to the markets now. The NGX has been looking good this week. I know Will is happy about that. But what I don't know is how much she has made.
Oh, no, we are just
short of words.
We just
you don't want your viewers
we
to
just
know how
report
much you have
the market, and we help investors and traders to make the right decisions.
Oh, okay,
when they
right. Thank you, Madam Reporter.
Thank you so much, Ini. So just the NGX has been on a roll this week. I can say that.
Surprisingly for me, because we've seen so much red that I was just holding my breath, like, okay, let's just keep this up, especially because the fixed income market is still getting a whole lot of attention. We see attention has moved to OMO now, and yields are still going up, so I was like, okay, let's just accept this for now.
Well, investors are kind of like, they've mentioned it, rebalancing their portfolios. Some are still looking at the potentials in the equities market. You see Seplat yesterday signing that, settlement agreement, and that has boosted confidence in that stock. You saw it rally nearly, as in the oil and gas index rally nearly 6% yesterday, and it went up 10% in yesterday's trading session. So investors. And
we saw that Dangote had the AGM also.
Yes.
But I think that didn't translate into action from investors.
Oh, well, maybe investors have not. They're still digesting that, what came out of, the points that came out of that AGM, and they probably, we'll see some form of rally or some action from investors regarding Dangote. But you heard about Dangote refinery going to list by the end of the year, on the NGX.
I know a lot of people cannot wait. I mean, that is obviously a viable investment,
of course,
for anyone who is interested and has the heart and the patience. Remember what happened to Geregu also when it came, and then there was also there was Transcorp Power.
Transcorp Power also, just like, it just came out of nowhere, and everybody was like, "Oh, I missed it. Did I miss that train?"
Yeah, my excitement actually is, I wonder what will happen to the market cap. I can't wait to get off the 55 trillion naira.
Of course. We will definitely see that shake up, that heavyweight Dangote refinery come into that market and really.
And we're waiting for NNPC.
It will deepen the market.
We're still waiting for NNPC.
Yes. And I think
I didn't say anything.
That ship sailed long ago, but we'll wait and see when they would eventually list as a publicly traded company. Well, we'll just continue with the markets. We'll start off with the equity, with the major equities in Africa, where sentiments were positive at intraday. We see Nigeria's NGX 0.06% up, South Africa also in the green, 0.03% up. And let's look at the EGX 30 in Egypt, however, closed on Thursday, but in red territory. We see it 0.62% down, and Kenya also closing Thursday's session in the red, down more than 1%. Let's just see what's happening at the FMDQ market, right? That's the fixed income market. We did in conversations with Ini, we're talking about the rally in yields in the fixed income space, and we're going to be joining us to talk about that is Caleb Alimi, is the chief dealer, Providence Bank, joining us this afternoon. Good afternoon, Caleb.
Good afternoon, Bill. Thank you for having me.
Caleb, we were just talking about the yields in the fixed income space, but that will be tied to liquidity. But the CBN apparently is keeping a closer watch on market liquidity as we speak. We saw 2 OMO auctions this week, worth about 1.5 trillion and 5 billion naira each. Break this down for us, Caleb. Why did we have this massive mop-up by the CBN?
First of all, the CBN's mandate is price stability. And a key anchor of that is the exchange rate. So the first OMO auction was largely to drive FX into the market, and we had a lot of FPI interest. You recall that it was right after the recently concluded MPC meeting for the month. And so they had to sort of, invite FPIs to come into the market. And so we saw that OMO auction close at a record rate of 22.49%. with a participation of around 1 trillion or thereabout. So that particular first auction was to invite FPIs into the market, given there is FPIs and banks that can participate in the OMO auction. The second one was to mop up liquidity. We had a market was positively long, was positively liquid. Interbank market was positively liquid. And so the second OMO auction was to take out that liquidity where they sold exactly 500 billion of that. And the rates came slightly down to about 22.3%. 2.34%. So that's why we saw those two auctions over the last, in the course of this week. One was largely to target FPIs to bring in inflow of dollars, which we saw a lot of that. And we did see the CBN intervening into the interbank market right after that OMO auction, given that they had a good stock of FPI participation and FPI dollars that are coming to the market.
So looking at the market liquidity, we're seeing what is the current state as we speak?
Our market is currently positive. We're about 150 billion long. We're about 150 billion positive, and we expect that to help us through the rest of the weekend. Through the rest of the week, the month will close positive, and as we go into next month, we could see some CRR balancing activities from the CBN, where those that are short on their numbers will have a debit, and those that are excess on their numbers will have a credit. We'll see that balance out over as we go into next month. But what we've seen from this central bank is what we call a contractionary monetary policy. So we expect that even this 150 billion that we see this week, sometime next week will fizzle out, because they've consistently made sure the market is quite tight.
Okay, so how has that impacted yield, especially in the secondary markets? How has that impacted the yield there?
Yeah, so for treasury bills, we are seeing yields, slightly track upwards. As once market is a little tight, we'll see yields track upwards. But interestingly, yields are relatively stable, given that the OMO auction closed at 22.34%. It's trading much lower in the secondary market. But we're seeing more people trying to maybe sell off to create a bit more liquidity. What we'll find that sometimes the liquidity is concentrated in a few hands, so those that don't have liquidity will then come to the market to sell off their treasury bills. So market rates have been lower from the OMO auction. However, it's been relatively stable around, say, 21.7, 21.5%.
Okay, can you tell us what instruments investors are trading currently and what end of the yield curve?
Largely the 1 year yield curve, and largely the OMO papers are what we see banks just rotating amongst themselves. We're seeing a bit of sell-off on the what we call, it's not really short, but it's mid-dated papers, the February and March maturities. We're seeing a lot of banks coming to offload those papers to create more liquidity and sort of to also rotate into higher yielding OMO instruments.
Thank you so much, Caleb Alimi, Chief Dealer, Providence Bank, for your insights. Always good to have you.
Thank you, Will. Share it.